as impressive as your reading main idea tasks were yesterday, your math was even more impressive. Okay, we rocked that comparing assignment, which tells me that we understand the difference between 3-digit and 4-digit numbers. Okay, we're going to continue on with the conversation today regarding what to do when numbers have the same number of place values. So when they're both 4-digit numbers or they are both 3-digit numbers, what do you do? Okay, that's what we're going to focus on today when comparing numbers. Your assignment today is completely and entirely on Seesaw. And I have already started a template as a sample student. This is what your work will look like. However, it says view instructions. So let's look at our instructions together. Let me make sure I am sharing my sound. There we go.
In this assignment, you're going to learn about comparing numbers using a place value chart. The first thing you're going to do is click through the video links below to learn about comparing numbers using a place value chart. Then you're going to click the Add Response button to complete some practice problems on your own. You're going to use the pen or pencil tool to show your work on each page. Be sure to complete both of the practice pages before you submit your work with the green check. Remember, if you get stuck and need some help, you can always go back and watch the videos again. When you're finished, be sure you go back and check over your work. Then you can click the green check to turn it in.
All right, so I was told to click through the video links first. Let's go ahead and take a look at our video links. These are going to be the lessons for today. And again, this is another strategy called using a place value chart. Okay, here we go.
Today we're going to be learning how to compare numbers using a place value chart. Click on the next slide to get started.
All right, can do. If I can get my Zoom controls out of the way. There we go.
Okay, here we have two numbers in the thousands place. The first number is 3,431. We're going to record this number in the place value chart below, starting with the ones place. In this number, there's a 1 in the ones place. There's a 3 in the tens place. So we go to the tens column and put a 3. There's a 4 in the hundreds place. Put 4 in the hundreds column. And a 3 in the thousands place. We put a 3 in the thousands column. Okay, our second number over here is 3,451. We're going to do the same thing with this number. We're going to go ahead and put it in our place value chart, starting with the ones place. We have 1 1, 5 tens, 4 hundreds, and 3 thousands. Okay, now that we have both of our numbers in the place value chart, we can use this to help us compare these two numbers, just like we did when we used the place value blocks. We're going to start with the largest place value position, because that's where that's where the largest amount of our number comes from. Okay, so let's take a look. Both of our numbers have a 3 in the thousands place. This doesn't help us distinguish which number is larger since they're both the same. So that we're going to cross off. Okay, let's go to our hundreds. If we take a look, we have 4 hundreds in both of these numbers. Again, this does not help us decide which number is larger and which number is smaller because it's the same. Okay, so we're going to move on. That was our hundreds place. Now we're going to move on to our tens column and do the same thing. Circle it. Then we can take a look and see that our first number has 3 tens, whereas our second number has 5 tens. We know that 5 tens is more than 3 tens. So that tells us that the number that has the 5 tens is larger than the number that has the 3 tens. So we're going to put our place value sign here, or excuse me, our comparing number sign, and we can read this sentence: 3,431 is less than 3,451. Let's go to the next slide to see another example.
I'm going to take a look at the hand emoji here. Are there any questions about what you just saw? About how to compare numbers when some of the place values have the same digit? Any questions? I'm looking for that hand emoji here.
No.
Okay, so it looks like this is making sense. Okay, great. Keep moving on.
Okay, here we have two different numbers. We're going to do the same thing with these numbers. We're going to put them in our place value chart. So take our first number, 5,430. We're going to start with the ones place again. There are 0 ones, 3 tens, 4 hundreds, and 5 thousands. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing with our second number, 5,431. Again, starting with our ones place. It's important to start with your ones place so that you make sure your numbers are lined up correctly. Then you go to your tens place. We have 3 tens, 4 hundreds, and 5 thousands. Okay, and just like before, we're going to start comparing these numbers in our largest place value position. In this case, it is the thousands position. We're going to circle, take a look, and see that both numbers have 5 thousands. That does not help us determine which number is larger because it's the same. So we're going to go to our next largest place value position, which is the hundreds. Same thing. Again, both numbers are the same. We have 4 and 4. So both numbers have 4 hundreds. Doesn't help us decide which one is larger. So we're going to go on to our tens place. You can see that again, these numbers are the same. We're going to keep going until we find a set of numbers that are different. So here we find it in our ones place this time. We can see that the first number has 0 ones and the second number has 1 1. It's not a lot different, but it's enough to tell us that this green number is a larger number than the purple number. So when we put our place values, excuse me, I keep saying that. When we put our comparison symbol up here, make sure that it's the open side is facing to the larger number and the point side is pointing towards the smaller number. So we would read this comparison as 5,430 is less than 5,431. Okay, let's go on to the next slide for another example.
So this time we had to go all the way down to that ones place. And I want to make sure we understand that we start at the largest place value first. We're looking at the largest place value. When that doesn't work, we move to the next and we keep getting smaller until we find a digit that is different. I'm looking at those hand emojis again. What questions are there about how to solve this type of problem? What is not making sense? What is confusing? Yes, Sophia.
The 1,000 is confusing me.
The thousands?
The 5 and the 5.
Okay, so if we look right here, let me go and get this. Do you see how this number has a 5 in the fourth place? 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you see that? You can stay unmuted, Sophia. That way we can have a conversation. Okay, the same thing is happening with this number. This is also a number that has 5,000. So in the fourth digit, there is a 5. That's why we see that this shows 5,000 and this shows 5,000. Now, when we have two digits that have the same value, we aren't able to say that they're different because they are the same. So we have to look at the next place value to see which one is bigger or smaller. These were the same as well, so we moved on to the next place value. And again, those were the same, so we had to go all the way down to the ones. So when we see numbers that are the same, we have to move on to the next place value digit. Does that make sense, Sophia, or do you still have questions?
That's okay.
All right, thank you. Aiden Leachman.
There is a 0 in the ones place.
That is correct. So when we have a 0 in the ones place and a 1 in the other place, when all of the other digits are the same, that's how we determine that this one is greater or larger. Because you're right, there's not a 0 in the ones place, there's a 1, which is more than 0. Excellent, thank you for clarifying. Anything more?
No.
All right, great. Aiden H., I see that you are our last question.
What's the point of having the hundreds chart if you can just look the tens, the hundreds, or the thousands?
Great question, Aiden. So Aiden is saying, I can just see this right here in my head. This is a great tool for if you are struggling to see it in your head. So eventually, Aiden H., you're right. We want to get to the place that we can just look at these numbers and be good to go and know exactly what to do. Okay? In the meantime, while we're learning, this is a tool to help you. So if you're ever stuck and you're not sure, this is a great way to line them up so that they're right on top of each other and I can see those are the same, those are the same, those are the same. Ah, these are different. That way I don't have to kind of do it really messy like in my head, because in my head, if I'm not good at this yet, I've got to think about all these different numbers and connect them before I figure out the correct answer. So you might be at a place, Aiden H., that you don't need the hundreds chart, and that's fantastic. This is just a tool for if there's a time that you do need it. Okay? Does that answer your question?
Yep.
All right, awesome. Okay, let's keep going. Seems like we're doing pretty well. Love it.
Okay, walking through with these two numbers, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take a look at our first number, 1,730. And we're going to go ahead and put the number in our place value chart based on what we have up here. Okay, 1,730. And then we're going to do the same thing with our next number, 1,730. That sounds familiar. 0, 1s, 3 10s, 700s, and 1,000. Okay, we're going to start with our thousands place to compare. We have 1,000 in both of these numbers, and 700s in both of these numbers, 3 10s in both of these numbers, and 0 1s in both of these numbers. If every single place value has the exact same number, that tells you that this set of numbers is equal. So you would read this as 1,730 equals 1,730. Okay, move on to the next slide to see one more example.
Any questions on this one before we move on? How to determine if numbers are equivalent? Looking at every place value to prove that they are the same. Yes, Sophia.
They're the same.
That's correct. They are the same. And we're able to see that because we lined up the thousands, hundreds, tens, and ones, and they all had the same numbers in the digits. That's correct. Awesome. Terrence.
The number in the thousands.
What about it?
What is the number because it's scribbled out?
You can see them right here.
Oh.
Any other questions?
Nope.
All right, awesome. Okay, last example.
Okay, in this example, you can see that we have two different numbers, and in each of the numbers, they have a different number of digits. This first number here, in this green color, you can see we have 4 digits in this number. So we're going to take all 4 digits and put them down here in our place value chart. Ones, 2 tens, 0 hundreds, and 1,000. Okay, and then we're going to take our second number, which you can see only has 3 digits. We're going to put it in the place value chart as well. Remember, we start with our ones place. So we're going to start with the 9, 9 ones, 5 tens, and 7 hundreds. As you can see, we do not have any thousands, so you can leave that blank. Or, if it makes you feel better, you can put the 0 here to show we don't have any thousands at all. Right, so we're going to do comparing just like we did with the other numbers, starting in the thousands place, because one of our numbers does have thousands, so we're going to start there. Let's take a look. The first number, you can see we have 1,000. The second number, we don't have any thousands. So right away, we can tell that this number, the top number, is larger than the bottom number, which tells us that 1,026 is greater than 759. Now don't let this confuse you. Always use your place value chart to plug in the digits into their proper place value positions. Because if you just go with your first glance, you might get tricked. Because you can see that the first digit in this number is a 7. The first digit in this number is a 1. You might get tricked thinking that the 759 is larger than the 1,026 because 7 is larger than 1. But really, you have to compare place value positions. So we have to compare thousands to thousands. So this does not work. So really, we have 1,000 compared to 0,000. That's why 1,026 is larger or greater than 759.
So Aiden H, that's another example of why it's important to use that chart, because at first glance, we might see a 7 and think, oh, that's bigger than a 1, but it's a 700. It's not a 7,000. Okay, so that right there is going to help us understand the difference. Okay, and I just had to mute everyone because I had 5 people try to unmute all at once. So now you're going to have to ask request permission to unmute. So I'm going to use those hand emojis. What questions are there about the math right now? About the math only, please, and how to compare numbers that have a different number of place values. Any questions? Terrence.
Are we supposed to put that 1 there?
This one,
the the 0?
So you could put it there if that visually helps you. Another option would also be to leave it blank. So you could also leave this blank if your mind more easily registers that it sees nothing. If your mind needs to see that 0 is equivalent to nothing, you can do it that way as well. It's up to your preference. Okay, so either way that helps you. All right, great question. Thank you. Anything more? Okay, looking for those hand emojis for any other questions about this concept. Okay, great. So now we're going to move on to looking at the work. What happens when you don't have a chart? Because you're going to be given some numbers to compare and there might not be a chart there. Here's how you can easily set one up for yourself.
Okay, finally I want to talk to you about what happens when you don't have a place value chart, but you still have two numbers that you need to compare. Well, no chart, no problem, because you can draw a place value chart. So let's practice doing that together. All right, so to draw a place value chart, I'm going to start with a large box. Large enough that you can put labels in and numbers. So you got your nice large box here. Okay, then you're going to cut it in half. Okay, and each of these halves is going to represent a period. And a period, hopefully you've talked about this, has 3 place value positions in it. Every period has a ones, a tens, and a hundreds. Okay, so that's your ones period. And then let me put a line here to show us our labels. Okay, so then we've got the thousands period, and that's the new period for 3rd grade. This first place is called the 1000s place, that we just call it thousands. The second place, again, we go ones, tens, hundreds. So we have 1000s, 10,000s. Let's actually put a TH here so we can tell the difference between thousands and tens, okay? So ones, tens, hundreds. We have thousands, 10,000s. Maybe you can guess what comes next. Yes, 100,000s. Now, in 3rd grade, we won't be dealing with this 100,000s column at all. Okay, and on occasion, we may have a number that reaches all the way to the 10,000th position. Okay, let's put our comma here that separates our periods. And voila, we have ourselves a place value chart ready to use. Okay, I'm going to cut this in half so that we have 2 places to put our numbers in. So let's say we have the number, I'll do a dark color. Let's say we have the number 2018. And then we have the number 2020. And we want to compare these numbers using the place value chart. So let's go ahead and put our orange or yellow number in here, 2000. Oops, that's the wrong one. I'm in the 10,000s position. This is why you always start with your ones place so you don't make the mistake that I just made. Okay, let's go back here. So remember, you start with your ones place, put your 0 ones, put your 2 tens, put your 0 hundreds, and your 2000s. There we go. All right, now we're ready to put in this purple number. Starting with the ones place, we have 8 ones, 1 10, 0 hundreds, and 2 thousands. Okay. And we're ready to compare. Same way we did before. We have 2 thousands in both numbers. Nope, that doesn't help. We have 0 hundreds in both numbers. Nope, that doesn't help. And here we have 2 different digits, which helps us with our comparison. We can see that the first number has a 110 in the tens place, and the second number has a 2 in the tens place. We know 2 is larger than 1, so that tells us that the number 2020 is larger than the number 2018. So we're going to make sure that the open side of our comparison sign is pointing to 2020.
Okay, questions about that, about how you can set up your own place value chart? I'm looking for those hand emojis. Okay, awesome. Aiden H.
You can draw like a big square and put lines inside of it so you have more space to draw the numbers.
You could make it larger if you needed to. Thank you for clarifying. Anything more?
Nope.
Okay. Miss Sophia.
Do we have to do the 10 and the 1,000 together?
So this is, she was showing you that the place value chart can show larger numbers. In third grade, we go up to the 10,000s. So we will mainly use the thousands, hundreds, tens, and ones, but there may be times that we use that 10,000s. But we will not use the 100,000s in third grade. But she was simply showing you that it exists. Okay? Anything more? All right. Aiden L.
There is an 8 on the ones.
There is an 8 on the ones. So if we had to go to the ones place after we learned that there was a 2 in the tens, we could. But we were able to stop at the tens place because we saw a number that was greater than another digit in the tens place. Anything more?
Yes.
What more?
There is a 1 in the tens. There's a 1 and a 2. The 2 is at the bottom and the 1 is at the top.
Yes, and that's because that's just how we stacked our numbers. So we can see that 2 tens is greater than 1 10, which is how we knew to use this comparison symbol up here. Because the first numbers in the thousands and hundreds were the same, and our tens were different. So we looked for the larger number to know which is greater. Awesome. Anything more?
No.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right. You are going to try this assignment with 4 place value charts that have been given to you. So these are the directions for how you will work. I will let you watch these directions independently during work time. On slide 8, there are also some examples of directions for you. Draw place value charts to compare each set of numbers. Use the symbols greater than, less than, and equal to finish each comparison sign. I want to make sure that I point something out to you. And what I would like to point out to you is that there are 2 things to do on this page. My directions tell me to draw place value charts, which means I'm getting graded on if I draw the chart. I understand that some of you may not feel like you need the chart. However, as a teacher, I need to verify that you understand the concept. So if you skip draw the place value charts, I will give your work right back to you, because I need to verify that you understand this concept. So I understand that you may not need it, but you do still need to complete it, okay? The second thing is to use the symbols greater than, less than, or equal to. So you will draw 1 symbol in each circle to make that statement true, okay? You are getting ready to complete this work. I am going to remain on Zoom for the last 13 minutes that we have together in case you need any help. I'm going to come back to you and go over our dismissal directions before I let you go, okay? We have 13 minutes until lunch. So your lunch is at 11:15. At 12 o'clock, I am in my office hours, which means I am on Zoom in case you or your adults need any help on completing assignments or technology issues. At 1:35, you have related arts with Mr. Nelson again. At 2:20, you will hop on for the end of day dismissal announcements. Okay? So between now and all of these activities, you need to complete the math assignment that I just showed you on Seesaw. You need to have your lunch and your recess. And if you have questions, I will be back on at 12 to help you with any of those questions. Okay? All right.